All right, Vinnie, let's talk about Pliny the Younger now. We talked about elder, so younger, we know where the name came from.
Yep.
Where'd this concept for this beer and the event itself, I think that's really, having gone to it several times, and one thing I want to, say to you again is, like, every time I come, you and Natalie are walking the line and shaking everybody's hand. I mean, that is the coolest thing. I can't think of anything better, just more of a class act. You guys are amazing.
We like doing it. So so we, in 2005, we had now taken over the brewery from Corbell. We were downtown in Santa Rosa. It was Natalie and I, and it was pretty slow. We weren't paying ourselves, and slow time of winter for beer. So we were just looking for ways to fill the tanks, make a little extra beer, a little extra, income. And at the time, breweries would make barley wines in the winter, and that was all well and good. But I had this idea to push the envelope and see how hoppy we could make a beer, and still have it drinkable, balanced, but a lot of hops, way more hops than the Elder. And at that point, Elder was a year-round beer. And so first was like, well, do you make it lower in alcohol or higher in alcohol? Lower in alcohol, the hops will pop more, but it becomes way too out of balance and maybe too chlorophyll-y and too green. So the decision was to make a bigger beer. At the time, it started at 11% alcohol. Eventually, it moved. We brought it down to 10 1/4, which is where it is now. And but it was a higher alcohol beer, so basically just more base malt and then more sugar. So that was that part of the recipe. And then literally taking the hops and adding 50 or 100% more than the Elder is, and building this beer, like, how can you make it be drinkable, not too sweet, because you have to remember alcohol adds sweetness, and that was in part why we eventually brought it to 10 1/4, but also have a beer that's really dry. Then that was, that's a cornerstone of all of our beers, was that they are dry. And that was the beginning of it. And so for the first 5 years, from 2005 to 2009, we would release it in early February with no fanfare, nobody waiting in line. And then in 2010, I showed up to tap the tank or keg, whatever it was. It's the first Friday of February. And lo and behold, it's 7 in the morning too, by the way, so we're 4 hours from opening. And I look outside and there's people mingling out front, so I get the beer tapped and I look out and there's even more people out front. So I go outside and say, hey, what's going on? They said, oh, well, we're here for Pliny the Younger. And I said, well, it's 7 a.m., we don't open until 11. And they said, yeah, that's fine, we want to taste it. There's a website that has it ranked as best beer in the world. Another website has it as like the second best beer. Rate Beer had it as number 1, and Beer Advocate had it, I think, as number 2 under West Fluttering, behind West Fluttering 12. And we only sold it on draft at our little brew pub in Santa Rosa. That was it. But somewhere along the way, people were coming in, drinking it, and it was somehow getting rating. I didn't even know what Beer Advocate or Rate Beer was at the time. I literally would be like, where was it? Who? What's Beer Advocate? What's Rate Beer? Anyways, that day we sold all 620 gallons in 8 hours.
And how many years before?
That was 5 years.
5 years into it.
5 years for it to build up to that.
Slow, and then catalyst,
and
boom.
And literally that day was literally, I drilled a hole in the cold box in the back. So we were selling growlers of it too.
Yeah.
And literally put a tap in the back of the cold box and was filling growlers, and Natalie was at the front, and a couple bartenders and any employees that came in, just put them to work. Friends that came in, put them to work. And we were able to buy a 200-barrel fermenter because of that day, but it was one of our worst days because it was the worst customer service. But literally that day was when we started. That's when the event built from that day. Was that, okay, next year we're going to spread it out over 2 weeks, and we're going to have a limit. And we may run out at the end of the day, but you'll know for sure you can come back the next day and get it.
And you guys stopped doing growler fills at one point?
Yeah, that was, we only did growler fills.
Was it that 1 year?
Well, up until 2010. We did growlers the 5 years before.
I remember seeing on the internet, people were selling them.
They were selling them.
It
was crazy. Yeah, so from 2005 to 10, you could buy growlers of it, and then no more growlers. So from 2011 until 19, so through 18, it was draft only, and it was in 19 that we started doing bottles, when we opened here in Windsor. But we didn't do, so this was draft only. And people would show up in the most inclement weather. It would be raining. And
I've been out here one time when it was raining.
Yeah, so we stretched it out over 2 weeks. And we every year got a little better and changes. So eventually a wristband, eventually a limit of 3 glasses, a table limit, pull tabs on your wristband, and just trying to make the experience better. And I think, you know, as I talked about earlier, that I look at our beer recipes as a concept and that they're evolving and that it keeps them relevant. I think the Pliny the Younger event has stayed relevant, and that, you know, there's almost nothing like it, that for 2 weeks in a year that a brewery has a line for that whole 2 weeks for a special release, and now 2 locations. And our staff knows how important it is, and so just all in, it's become this this really great gathering of beer enthusiasts and folks that are just into maybe not even like hardcore beer enthusiasts like you and I are. Just people that love the experience of it. And so we, you know, it's now 20 years just passed, so we did a special commemorative label and did 3 bottles instead of 2. But even like switching from no bottles into doing bottles, making bottles available at 2 per person in 19, that was a part of that growth and the evolution of the Pliny the Younger release. And you know, we talked originally about potentially including it in you know, the
BYR article.
But the recipe changes every year. But there's also some advanced hop products in it that I'm pretty sure homebrewers can't get. So, you know, I think we'll leave it up to the imagination of the homebrewers. It's now just 2-row malts. There's Pilsner malt as well in the base. It's a good amount of sugar. That gets you to 10.25% alcohol. It finishes at about 2.5 Plato still, even though it's so high gravity. Sometimes it gets a little drier. You know, it's bittered with hop extract, a lot of pellets, whole cone hops as well. And then dry hops, it works out to be like 7 pounds per barrel of just dry hops.
So nice, healthy dry hop.
It's a huge dry hop load, but you know.
And that's just the T90 side.
That's T90 equivalent. Some of that's cryo.
So there is some extra.
Yeah. So it's probably all in with a concentrated hop pellet and T90s. We're probably at 5 pounds per barrel though, and any more is unnecessary. Any less, you don't get that huge impact.
There is like a law of diminishing returns at some point, right?
Well,
that's amazing. Back to the event itself. Like I always, the lines are amazing. And talking to beer people, I always meet someone from out of country. Like last year, or this recent one, someone from Thailand I was talking to, someone from Australia. I think the year before that. I'm always meeting people. So it brings people from
all over the
cult
world.
Following.
And there's an economic impact study done most years, and in 2024, so earlier this year, the economic impact of Sonoma County was $8.6 million.
Wow.
The year before that, it was 6.3 million or 4 million. So from somewhere in the 6 million range for a 2-week economic impact to 8.6 million is pretty. That's pretty
awesome,
staggering. Yeah, it's very flattering.
I would encourage anyone out there to make the trip. It's just a great experience, great fun.
And we make it more of a Russian River experience. So like, there's always some other unique beer on. We have Pliny for President available this year. I usually have some special funky beer on. We pull old bottles out of our reserve library and have them available as well. So it's more than just about Younger.